Good luck.
Thank you.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün ABD'nin en iyilerinden Kent State University'de yoğun İngilizce programlarını ABD'den dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Debbie, the stage is yours now.
Thank you so much. Hello and welcome. It's so nice to be with you today. And we can go to the next slide, please. So I would like to say merhaba, hello, and welcome to our presentation today from Kent State University. Kent State is located in Ohio in the United States, and I'm happy to have the chance to share some information about our institution and our English language program. My name is Debbie Rosner, and I am the director of our Esl Center at Kent State University. In my life, I have been fortunate to live, study, and work in some wonderful places on our planet. I have the experience of learning languages. I learned German while I was living there. I learned French in the classroom, and I learned Turkish. Biraz Türkçe biliyorum. I hope that's not terrible pronunciation. When I studied in Alanya in your beautiful country when I was in college many, many years ago. So my language learning experience tells me that I know this is a humbling experience, and therefore I have great respect for all of the students who are learning languages. So I have had the pleasure of teaching English overseas and at home, and the chance to make some wonderful connections with many people along the way. Next slide, please. Today, I want to talk to you about my institution, the English as a Second Language Center, and my advice for maximizing the opportunity of intensive English study while in country. We will reserve time at the end of the presentation today for questions and answers. Next slide, please. First, please allow me to share some information about Kent State University with you. Next slide. I sometimes call myself an Ohio boomerang. And the reason for this is that I was born in Ohio, which is a state of 11 million people in the Midwest of the United States. I then studied out of state and out of country, as I explained before, and I settled in Washington, D.C. But when it was time for me to start a family of my own, I returned to Ohio. I was glad to return to a state which is safe, with a reasonable cost of living, lots of green spaces, some cities, friendliness, and excellent colleges and universities. So therefore, I present to you Kent State University, which I believe strongly is a great place to study. Next, please. So Kent State University is located in Kent, Ohio, and we've got a map here up on the slide. It is a small city which is surrounded by natural beauty. As you can see on the map, Ohio is in the northeastern corner of the United States, with easy driving distances to cities like Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cleveland, and Detroit. A short flight or a longer drive can take you to New York City, Chicago, or DC. Kent is really a traditional college town, which means that Kent State University has a strong relationship with the city of Kent, and the shops, restaurants, cafes that are located in the city really cater to the students. There's a good bus system and plenty of housing near campus or on campus for students. The city itself is friendly, quaint, and there isn't too much nightlife to distract students from their studies. Next slide, please. So just a snapshot of Kent State University on the Kent campus. It's really a big institution in a lot of ways. The campus itself is spread out on nearly 4 square kilometers of land, and it features a lot of green space, a very clean campus with state-of-the-art buildings and facilities. Kent State is ranked as the 25th safest campus in the country which to me is an impressive number given the very large number of colleges and universities that are in the United States. Safety is a high priority on the campus. The campus itself is quite large in terms of students. We have more than 26,000 graduate and undergraduate students studying on the Kent campus. And the university offers more than 300 majors, minors, and certificates. Overall, we have more than 250,000 alumni of the university worldwide. Next, please. So ESL students, when students come to study English at Kent State University, they are full-fledged Kent State University students, which means they have full access to everything the campus has to offer. I will mention again and again the beautiful green spaces on the Kent campus. It really is one of my favorite features. It's lovely to walk outside when students need time to relax or focus, either one in preparation for their studies. But the university also has some fantastic facilities for students, such as a beautiful recreation center, some theaters, and opportunities for students to have social events. I have a photograph here of our International Student Cook-Off, where international students present dishes from their home countries in a little friendly competition. And so for language learners, it's a wonderful place for students to take advantage of all of the culture, social activities, and language that's around them every day. Next slide, please. So the whole world, of course, has responded to the global pandemic, including Kent State University. Our Eagle mascot, whose name is Flash, has been used by the university to spread messages of safety in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. And so our classrooms in response are socially distanced. New cases of the virus are tracked and reported, and the vaccine is now thankfully widely available on the campus. So the university practices what it calls the Flash's Safe 8 principles. And students and faculty, who we call Flashes because of our mascot, we've come to have a new phrase around the campus, which is Flashes take care of Flashes, which basically just means that members of our community look out for each other and take care of each other. And that's something that we take to heart and something that we practice with our students every day. Next slide, please. So I'd like to move on now to tell you a little bit about our ESL Center, which is the focus of our talk today, and the intensive English program that we offer there. Next slide. So FYI, this photograph here where you see the students all sitting close together, this was taken before the COVID outbreak, and so we were sitting a little bit more closely together then. But I share it with you because it really, to me, shows the spirit of our language teaching that we undertake at the university. Our center was started in 1994, and so for the past more than 25 years, we've been perfecting our skill in teaching English as a second language. We are housed, or our ESL Center lives in the English department, which I think is an important advantage for our program. All of our teachers in the ESL Center are full-time faculty in the English department, and so therefore we really have the time and professional opportunity to continue refreshing our skills. All of our instructors have required credentialing in second language acquisition and applied linguistics. And we partner with our Teaching English as a Second Language program to incorporate the young teachers in training who bring us lots of energy and ideas. And they also serve as partners for conversation or leaders for social activities for the students in our program. So again, this gives students an opportunity to practice English not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom also. Next slide, please. So our program has 10 levels, and I've given you a little visual here of our Common European Framework reference alignment with our program. So going from level 1 to level 10, we range in the CEFR A1 to C1 range of proficiency when it comes to the skill that we're trying to teach, or the skill level that we're trying to teach. So as an institution, our minimum English requirement for full admission for undergraduate students is a 71 TOEFL or a 6.0 IELTS equivalent. And so students who are in our level 8 of the program, that is our exit point for undergraduate studies. So students are given a placement test upon entry, and they make their way through the levels. Once they reach level 8, they are able to go directly from ESL classes into undergraduate studies. For graduate students, we have a range of English requirement anywhere from that same 71 TOEFL 6.0 IELTS up to a 94 TOEFL to 7.5 IELTS requirement. So that depends on the degree. As I mentioned before, we have many different colleges within the same university, and each of the colleges have a different graduate English proficiency requirement. And so students who are aiming to enter a master's degree or a PhD, they would begin wherever their proficiency level is in their program, and can go all the way up to level 9 and 10 in our program, which helps to prepare them for that requirement. Select programs at Kent State University will allow students to move directly from ESL into their graduate programs. Other programs require students to provide proof of proficiency through a TOEFL or an IELTS, and the ESL Center is there to help students get ready for those exams. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, all of the students entering our program are given a placement test, and that tells us which level they will begin in. You can still hear me okay? Hang on just 1 second, please.
We can hear you now,
Deborah. Thank you very much. Okay, great. So we also have a placement tool, and I'll make sure that I share the link with you. This is an online placement tool which students can take from home. It's a pretty quick assessment which gives students a sense of where they might place within our program. We have something called partial release, which means if students are, they have a strong proficiency in English, but they haven't quite met the requirement yet, they are permitted to take 1 or 2 academic classes while they also take English language classes at the same time. Students in our program are enrolled in English coursework, and so it is credit-bearing English coursework. Full-time enrollment means 17 credit hours of English credits are earned by students each semester of enrollment. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about our English program. Our program is intensive, which means it is a full-time commitment for students in our program. Students are therefore immersed in the language full-time. We believe that students benefit not only from the full-time coursework, which is 23 hours of classroom time per week, but also being immersed in an English language environment all day long, whether they live on campus and they have a roommate, or they live off campus and they take part in social activities on the campus. It gives the student a chance to be fully surrounded by English all day long, which we think is the best way for them to make fast progress in the language. Another feature of our program is English for academic success, and I'll talk to you about that a little bit more in detail on the next slide, but our focus is on English for academic purposes. We know that students need those skills in reading, writing, listening, and grammar in order to be prepared for all of the language challenges that they'll face once they begin their academic degree programs. Another feature of our program is individualized attention. Our student to instructor ratio, so the class sizes are quite small. which allows us to give individualized attention to students. Sometimes that means that students need extra support in the form of tutoring. Sometimes that means that students want an extra push. In fact, I've had a few students from Turkey who really want more. They want an additional challenge. They want other assignments that give them the push in the language that they need to boost their proficiency level. So full support is what we offer and promise to our students. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our program being intensive means 23 hours of classwork per week. And we divide our curriculum, our classes, into the traditional language skills of reading, writing, listening, grammar, and speaking. And inside of those skills, because our program focuses on academic purposes, we try to give students the kinds of assignments, the kinds of training that will prepare them best for academic success. So thinking about this, for example, when students are in a writing class, their writing assignments will be tailored to perhaps the major that they intend to study, with an opportunity to do a small amount of research writing while they're in their ESL classes. Or in our speaking curriculum, for example, students make presentations in an academic style that will mirror what they will do in their academic classes once they are finished with the English requirement. So everything we do, we try to make it tailored to the student's specific needs so that they maximize their learning time when they're with us. Next slide, please. So new for fall 2021, we are excited to announce an enhancement to our traditional skills approach, which is an enrichment focus each week. So we're dividing our enrichment focus, and this is really taking an approach which says students learn best, learn language best when they are engaged with meaningful activities in ways in which they naturally are given opportunities to communicate about things that really matter. So our enrichment courses will focus on American culture, digital literacy skills, and an up-close look at Kent State. So once a week, for example, we will focus on American culture, which might explore film, food, and traditions. Current events are always something that we bring into the classroom. Once a week, we'll also focus on enhancing digital literacy skills for academic success. That might include English language training on features of software, on research tools that are helpful for students to learn when they're in their English language training phase for use afterwards, and presentation skills. And finally, each week we will explore in person what the fantastic campus has to offer. So for example, did you know that Kent State has its own airport and flight school? The gorgeous building that you see here on my slide is the main building for the College of Architecture and Environmental Design, and it is a beautiful building to visit and get some information about. The university also has a fashion school and a museum, and a brand new innovation hub with opportunities for students to get some hands-on learning practice. Also, the Kent State University has a world-class theater program, and so each week we will take an opportunity to visit a special place on campus, and this gives students not only the experience of getting to know something new, but also gives them the language training that's associated with the listening, the speaking, and taking in of all the campus has to offer. Next slide, please. So I want to share with you a little bit about pricing for our program. So tuition, and so this would be the baseline tuition plus instructional fees for full-time one semester is $5,276, and that would be for 17 credit hours of English credits. So as I mentioned before, our ESL Center is inside of the English department. And so when students are registered for ESL classes, they are earning English credits. And so the credits then end up being a GPA for the students, which then, if they stay on at Kent State University, is a GPA on their transcript as a starting point. Next slide, please. So here I'd like to share with you estimated expenses for a full semester or 2 semesters. So this is to give you an idea of the full expenses that you could expect for a period of study. So this includes tuition, housing, food, medical insurance, books and supplies, and then some additional fees. And that gives you just a snapshot as to the cost of a semester or full academic year of study in our ESL Center. Next slide, please. So I'm pleased to tell you that Kent State also offers a global scholarship. This is a scholarship which is available to ESL students who are full-time in our program. It is up to $4,000 per academic year, taken off the cost of tuition. And we understand that students are making an investment when they study at a university, when they are improving their English skills. They're getting ready for a greater success in their academic degree programs, and so this scholarship helps to defray some of the cost of their English language study. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our program dates. We operate on a module system. So rather than being a full 15-week semester, we are a module of 7 weeks. So that means that students can begin their English studies with us at 5 different points per year. There are 2 entry points in the fall, beginning of fall, mid-fall, 2 entry points in the spring, beginning and midway through, and then in the summer we also have a session. And so for the upcoming fall semester, our start date will be August 26th for Module 1 and October 18 for Module 2. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the application process now. So here on the screen, I've got an application checklist for you. So students, when they are making a decision about study at Kent State, will decide if they are pursuing an academic program. So are they applying for admission to the university for an undergraduate or graduate degree? Or are they applying for English language study only? So I'm going to walk you through the process for applying for English language study only. Students would complete an application, and there is a $30 application fee. Students must have finished high school in their home countries before they can start the ESL program, but that is really the only academic requirement for admission. After completing their application, they will scan their biographical pages of their passport and submit those. And by submitting the passport biographical page, then they have completed their application and they are on their way to admission to the ESL Center. So once students have submitted their application, there are a few things that happen next, and I'll walk you through those. So upon the admissions team for our university, which is housed in our Office of Global Education, they check applications for completeness. The applications are reviewed and a decision process is made. And as I mentioned before, the requirement for study in the ESL Center for admission is really finishing high school. And at that point, students will receive communication that tells them of the decision for their application, for their admission to the university. Upon admission, students can begin the I-20 process. At this point, they will provide a proof of finances and additional information for that's required by our admissions office. Their financials will be reviewed, and provided everything is in order there, they will be issued an I-20 document by the university. Once they have received their I-20 document and their admission letter, they will also receive a welcome packet from Kent State University. And from there, students can then apply for their appointment, their visa appointment, and get ready to arrive to Kent State. So I'd like to finish up the formal presentation part before we get to questions and answers to talk to you a little bit about making the most of the opportunity to study language in an immersive environment, as I've been describing here today. Next slide, please. So I've got an image of jumping into the swimming pool with both feet. It's kind of an expression we have in English. To jump in with both feet means that you don't enter slowly, but you completely commit to it. So the students who really take advantage of being surrounded by the language all day make the best language learners, in my experience. When you're in the environment, you can acquire the language instead of just learning it. So I think back to my experiences when I was learning French in a classroom. It's one thing to have a textbook and to spend an hour with the language every day. It's another thing to be surrounded by the English when you go out for a meal, when you join a student club, when you play soccer with other people on Fridays, when you go shopping. To be surrounded by the language all the time helps you to really reinforce the learning and to make quick progress. I know that it takes some courage and students really have to put themselves out there, but I think that's really what it takes. Students can do activities on campus all day, every day. On our website, we've got a list of activities, and the calendar is always full. There's always an opportunity to do something, and that includes celebrations that we have during the year. The fall, for example, is a great time to have our Halloween celebration or Thanksgiving celebrations, and to really take in the culture as students, as much as students would like. Next slide, please. So in addition to students really taking advantage of the opportunities that are around them, there are lots of resources that make the studying really as impactful and as meaningful as possible. We have a fantastic Office of Global Education, which offers full wraparound support for international students. So that includes shepherding through the students through the application process, to our International Student and Scholar Services Office, which provides all kinds of advice for students on maintaining their visa status, on taking employment on campus. Students are permitted to work on campus for up to 20 hours per week. Our Office of Global Education weekly offers students activities where they can get together, get to know each other, get to know the campus, as well as trips both locally and to major cities in the U.S. The ESL Center offers a conversation partner program where we pair students one-on-one with a domestic student who would like to get to know a little bit more about you and your culture. It's a great opportunity to practice some spontaneous communication in English. We offer an English social hour each week where students can mix and mingle and again get that valuable practice of using the language. I mentioned the on-campus employment. Students really get the chance to then use the language in a new way when they are carrying out a job on campus, as well as earning a little bit of additional money. And we have a career services support office, which gives students the chance to look at internship opportunities, to improve their resume, to practice some interviewing skills. And finally, we have free tutoring available to students at any time. And sometimes students will use this to practice for something like an IELTS exam, or to get additional support or boost for the classes that they're taking. So what's next? I would invite you to contact us with any questions that you might have along the way. I know I've shared a lot of information, so I'd be happy to follow up with you by email. I put another email address up there for any questions about visa, I-20 process, which is isss@kent.edu. I invite you to follow us on Instagram. We are just starting our summer session here today, and so I look forward to sharing some pictures of our students as they enjoy their classes and take advantage of a beautiful summer here on the Kent campus. And I thank you very much for joining me here today. I think that I've probably spoken quite quickly through all of my slides, which leaves us with lots of opportunity for questions and answers, which is the next item on our agenda. So I think we might have some questions in the chat.
Debbie, we have questions in questions section. So do you want me to read them to you, or can you read?
That actually, if you wouldn't mind reading them to me, that would help me. And before you even do that, I'm going to invite my colleague Salma, who is here with us. She directs our international admissions office, and she's going to help me answer some of these questions. So I see the first one.
Debbie, do you want me to read them to you? I can moderate.
That would be great. Thanks, Selma.
Okay, so our first question, and hi everyone, is there any flexibility about deadlines and intakes this year?
The ESL admission really happens on a rolling basis. So as long as students can, I think they have to budget enough time to secure their I-20 documents, to get a visa appointment. So from that side, students really have to kind of manage their deadlines. But as far as applying to the ESL Center, they can apply up to, the day before classes start.
And to add to what Debbie has said, something that is really great about our intensive English program is you can start your fall semester, which normally begins in August, at the end of August. But if, let's say, maybe the visa situation is a little bit slow because of the coronavirus, we also have an additional start date where if you don't make the August date, you can come for October. So there is flexibility in that you have 2 chances per term instead of just one. And so that's something that we find very attractive in our intensive English program. We have another question. Do lessons start any more in the morning or any morning? Is there an afternoon option?
Thanks for that question. For the fall, we have our classes scheduled for morning and early afternoon, but we really try to be responsive to the students. So if, as we have students who firmly request or really prefer afternoon classes, we have the flexibility of scheduling those in the future at different time slots. But right now for fall, our classes will take place Monday through Friday, morning to early afternoon.
And do you know what time the classes start? Maybe was it the morning
Sure.
and the afternoon?
Yeah.
Start?
So classes start at 9 a.m., which isn't too early, I think, 9 a.m., and we finish by 12:31 p.m. This fall, we're going to have an online lab connected to each of our classes. So that's going to be a chance for students to log on later in the afternoon to practice those skills. But really 9 to 1 is when students should plan to be in classes on campus.
Great. Okay, our next question, and I can help you with this one, is can we get conditional offer for degree program when we enroll to ESL? And that's absolutely. So if you are an undergraduate student who is seeking a bachelor's degree, who just finished high school or maybe attended 1 year or so in university, you're able to apply for the desired program that you would like. Let's say you want to study business, you can apply for business. and not submit proof of English scores, and we will admit you conditionally. And with that single application, you'll be able to also start in the ESL program. And as Debbie talked about in her presentation, you can begin your program without taking a TOEFL test or anything. As long as you finish our intensive English program, you can start and directly enroll in your program. There's also something that Debbie talks about, which is partial release, where if you're doing really well in your intensive English classes and you get to a certain level, they may allow you to take some of your business classes, let's say some of your academic courses, at the same time as you're taking ESL, and that really helps you get into your program sooner. And I don't know, Debbie, if you would like to add anything.
Yeah, that can be a really great model for the student who's in the right position to take advantage of it. You know, they might take their beginner business class, their kind of introductory course, at the same time that they are finishing up with their writing skills or their, you know, grammar study, and that can be a really helpful model. Yeah, the other thing I would say is that when students are conditionally admitted, we make every effort to connect them to their majors before they begin their studies. So, for example, the College of Business might have a guest speaker who's coming to campus. They might have a student club, and we encourage students to go to see that guest speaker, join that club, get to know the people and the program before they begin, so that when they start, they feel like they already know the ropes and they're ready to go. And we also connect students to their academic advisors, so that once they finish with their ESL classes, they are immediately connected to an academic advisor who helps them to schedule their classes and have a smooth transition to their studies.
Great. And so our next question is, I want to apply to this university for a master's degree, but if I do not get sufficient score in English, can I join the program and then start my master's degree? And what is the fee for the program?
Great. So I think that goes back to what Selma was talking about with conditional admission. So provided the program does offer conditional admission, you could apply to the master's degree program. And if you are granted conditional admission, you would automatically be admitted to the ESL program. While you're in the ESL program, you improve your English language skills, and you either test into the required TOEFL IELTS score, or if we have an agreement, then you could begin your academic studies as soon as you're finished with ESL. And
yeah.
Salman, for the second part of the question, or will your add-on?
I'll just add on before I ask the second part of the question. If you tell us what master's program you're looking at, we can give you more information, whether that program reviews for conditional admission, or whether you need to do ESL first and finish it, or if they still want you to take a test. That way we're able to help you, because some of our graduate programs are very flexible and do conditional admission for ESL, and some of them may still require a test score. That being said, all students who are interested in graduate education at some point are welcome to join our ESL program as an ESL only applicant, and then work on their English proficiency. And then when they're ready to apply for graduate school, our admissions team works very closely with our Esl Center, and we can do an advising session, and while you're working on your intensive English score, help you get your paperwork together to apply for a master's or PhD. We've had quite a few Turkish students successfully do that for master's and PhD. And then the next question that's tied to this question is, what is the fee for the program? So,
right. If it's helpful, we can go back to that screen, or I can just pull it back up here on my screen. So it depends a little bit on how long the student is going to be studying in our program. So for some students, they only take one module of ESL, so it's basically one 7-week session, but typically students are enrolled in our program for a semester or more, and so the cost for a one semester, and this is just the tuition and instructional fees, would be $5,276. That's for one semester of English language study, and that includes 17 credit hours, and that's, again, that 23 hours per week of instruction in English.
All right, I think Salma lost her connection.
Oops.
Hi, Salma, can you hear us? Oops. All right.
I lost mine a little bit earlier, so hopefully she'll come back in.
Okay, we can wait.
There
Can
she
you
is.
hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
That is so funny. So I was saying for the graduate program, our master's degrees are usually 2 years. And so typically the cost per year, and we like to include the cost of attendance, which includes tuition fees, as well as your living expenses, books, basically the amount that you have to show to get your visa. You are looking at about $29,000 per year for that. Okay, moving on with the other question. We have a really important question is, are there any level requirements for English preparation? Can you start at 0 level or, intermediate level?
Yeah, that's why I'm so glad that we have our full 10-level program. We are able to offer students who are absolute beginners a starting place. I think for most students, our experience has been they've got some English in their background, whether that was in high school or somewhere along the way. But yes, we've had students who really are at an absolute beginner level, and then all the way up through level 10. And our advanced level is quite flexible and, again, I'll say responsive to the students' needs. So we know that, when students are at that advanced proficiency level, they may have strengths in speaking, but they really need to improve their writing. Or they may be very proficient in academic reading and writing, but they really lack confidence in speaking and pronunciation. And so we kind of, assess where the students are and what they need and adjust the curriculum accordingly.
Great. Our next question is, can we take credit lessons when we are in ESL courses?
Yes, so ESL courses are English department courses, and so they are credit bearing. So can students take credit courses in their majors while they're in ESL? That gets back to what Selma was saying a little bit earlier, that if students have conditional admission in a degree program and their English is pretty solid, they could take an academic course in their major while at the same time as taking ESL. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, great. And Farida is asking our next question, and I can take this one. Can I apply directly to the PhD program in psychology after completing the bachelor's degree without a master's first? As far as I know, this is something common in the US. But also, is it possible to earn 100% scholarship for this? So it looks like you've done a lot of research, and I can totally confirm that at Kent State University, you can go from the bachelor, as long as you have a bachelor's in psychology, you can apply directly to the PhD program. And then when you get your PhD, you also get the master's degree. They provide you with that. It is a very competitive program, as you know, to go from bachelor's to PhD. And they do offer graduate assistantships, which cover 100% of your school fees. And you are also provided with a small stipend or small salary that helps with some of your living expenses. If you live frugally and eat all your meals at home, you could make that salary go a little bit of a long way. So it's completely possible. Both admission into the PhD for psychology and the graduate assistantship are extremely competitive, but definitely is a great option for our students. And then we have another question about the average class size, and then we have some more questions that came in.
Great. So average class size is quite small. So our cap is at 17 students, so we would never have more than 17 students in a class. But I would say typically 12 students per class is perhaps our average, but depending on the level, it might be even smaller than that. You know, we've had some of our advanced classes which run with 4 or 5 students, and you know, in that environment, students really get more attention than they probably want. It feels like in a lesson with a student with a class size of that small, you're answering questions all the time, you're constantly talking, which if your goal is to learn the language as, you know, as quickly and as well as possible, then that's a good situation. But I would say on average 12 is about the class size, 12 students per instructor.
And that takes care of our next question, which was, what is the class size and student-teacher ratio?
Yep.
So very small. And once again, when you're learning a language, it's really important to have that small size. So when you're evaluating an English proficiency or an English as a second language center, those are things, especially if you're looking for academic English, you want to keep in mind the class size as well in that individualized attention. Can you share, I love this question, can you please share with us a placement test example? And we can put the link to the placement test as well. But could you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, thank you. So we have 2 placement evaluation measures. One is this placement tool, which lives on our website. It's free and open to anyone at any time. It gives you a general sense of where your proficiency would be relative to our program. And the questions on that might be listen to a short video and answer some questions about the video. There's a grammar section on there, so a fill in the blank where you're deciding which verb tense is correct for that situation, and also reading passages with comprehension questions. When students come to us, you know, when they arrive, we give a more comprehensive placement exam because we really want them to be in the right level from the beginning. And so that one takes almost 2 hours. We do a writing prompt with the students. So we'll ask them sort of a TOEFL or an IELTS type writing question, something like, you know, what are the benefits and drawbacks of online learning? You know, right now that's a highly relevant question because a lot of people have been, you know, have much more experience with it. But then students are invited with a prompt like that for 30 minutes to write as well as they can. Right, so and that gives us a lot of good information. And in addition to that, we have again a listening portion, a reading portion, and a grammar section where students really just show us what they can do, and therefore we can put them into the correct level from the start. We offer a lot of flexibility in our levels too. If a student after 7 weeks is really shining in their class, and it's clear from their grades and their performance and the comments from the instructor that they are just above and beyond, they can skip a level and go to the, you know, not just to the next level up, but they can skip ahead. And that way students feel like they're kind of making the progress that they need to. By the same token, if students are struggling, occasionally they will repeat a level, or we'll just have some additional support like office hour visits or tutoring so that they can get back up to speed.
And I dropped in the chat our placement tool.
Thank you.
So if you want to test it out and play with it, it's free. And so you're able to use it if you're curious about this. I'm not seeing any other questions. We could, you know, if someone wants to drop a question in the chat real quick before we end, feel free to do so. And we will share our email address. I'll put in the chat Debbie's email address as well as my email address if you would like to follow up.
And I'll put a little plug in too here, Salma, that we will, if you do take the placement tool, it's going to ask you for your email address. We'll have an open house coming up later this summer, and I'll send you an invitation if you decide to take the placement tool. And it's up to you, no obligation, no pressure, but we'll have an open house session remotely, so here through, probably through Zoom. And that's another chance for you to pop in, get some more information, ask some questions, and that's just another chance for us to connect.
Debbie, your email doesn't have a number, right? It's just drosner.
Correct. Yep. Or that esl@kent.edu is one that I check also.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you everyone for the great questions. This has been really productive. So glad that Debbie was able to join us and give such an in-depth overview about our ESL program.
Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much for your great presentation, Ebra and Salma. I think it was a really informative webinar for the attendees. And we had quite a lot of questions, and you covered them all. Thank you for your answers. I also would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Kent State University ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için Salma'nın paylaşmış olduğu mail adreslerinden iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda linkleri incelemeniz de faydalı olacaktır. Yarınki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.